All right, welcome back to round number 3 here at Portland Paper's Pauper event. And we are playing a cash event here. I'm Travis Cooper, hanging out with.
Quentin Wolebski.
And it looks like we've got Koldatha Boros versus Burn. We've seen Luis playing this Burn deck and hanging out in the booth and dispatched his opponents rather quickly the last round. And we get see, on turn 2 here. And a Rift Bolt off Suspend, and a Skewer the Critics, and a Lava Runner. So quite a bit of damage by turn 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of synergy between like the Lava Runner plus the Rift Bolt. That's like pretty nice.
Yeah, and this Skewer the Critics seems to have been a real upgrade to this deck. And oh, it's interesting to see. You don't always see the Karoo lands in the Boros deck, but Ben is deciding to play those. Do you think there's a particular favored deck in this matchup?
I think kind of depends on. So sometimes the Koldatha Boros deck will play the Radiant Fountain, the one where you gain 2 life. And when they play that in the Karoo, I feel like they're more favored. But otherwise, like the Burn Clock is pretty hard to really compete with. Looks like he suspended another Rift Bolt.
And we get a Journey to Nowhere there.
Oh.
Usually the Cold decks are playing some number of up to 4 lone missionaries on the sideboard to combat this burn deck. It looks like we've got 3 hanging out in Ben's sideboard.
So game 1 might be a little like not favored, but you know, Burn kind of preys on game 1s a lot. Does Luis have any Smash the Smithereens in his sideboard? Because that can be really very powerful against this deck because they have play so many artifacts and like you can wasteland them or strip mine them off their lane.
Yeah, we're looking at a couple 3 smashes in Luis's sideboard here.
That's gonna be pretty powerful next game.
Yeah.
Ben's already down to 1. That's
And I imagine there's going to be something in Luis's hand that does damage, and we get a Searing Blaze. So that was less than a 3-minute game 1.
yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Speaking of sideboards here, we have for Ben, Electrickery, a couple Gorilla Shamans, 4 Pyroblast, 1 Relic, 3 Lone Missionaries, a Standard Bearer, Core Sanctifiers, and Reaping the Graves. Um, Besides the Lone Missionaries, are there any other cards that you could see Ben swapping out from sideboard to the main deck?
I could see him bringing the Standard Bearer. It kind of like it's like a fog. You can like block some dudes or like redirect a bolt or something. It's
Okay,
pretty nice.
yeah, that makes sense. As far as Herbie sideboard goes, looks like we got some Electrickeries, Martyr of Ashes, Keldon Marauders, Smash the Smithereens, and Molten Rains.
What is the text on Martyr of Ashes?
You reveal X cards from your hand, sacrifice Martyr of Ashes, and it deals X damage to each creature without flying. So cards usually have for something like Elves or
Sure.
Boggles.
Yeah. I could see him bringing in the Molten Rains and the Smashes. The Molten Rains are really nice when your opponent's playing Karoo lands.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Ben's playing a lot of non-basics and those crew lands. As far as like what to take out, the curses seem kind of weak in this matchup, even though it is recurring damage. It's pretty slow clock, and Ben is can put on quite the clock as well. So I'd probably sideboard those out. As for the another 2 cards to side out, is there something that you would shave on in particular?
Um, I might cut the Shard Volleys. I don't know. I'm not very impressed with that card most of the time. Like it's fine, but
Yeah, if I was on the draw, I might even consider cutting some number of lava runners. Usually Ben's playing a lot of creatures that are going to accrue some value and just be able to block and kill a lava runner, especially because lava runner is probably not going to be turned on until Ben's turn 3.
yeah.
It looks like chat is curious to not see Seeker of the Way in the sideboard, which that would be a very strong card against Burn.
It's an uncommon though.
Wonder, perhaps would you clarify what
But
seeker you're talking about? So Cold 19. Do you know? You may be a little bit more familiar with Pauper than I am. Is
unless
there
it's
a?
it might have been reprinted.
I think I'm pretty sure it got reprinted in one of the master sets at
Iconic
Common.
Masters.
There we go. Yeah, it feels like in the past year we've had a fair amount of rarity shifts in that have greatly affected Pauper. Most notably, foil now being a common is been pretty insane for the Delver decks, and yeah, Seeker of the Way at common also just that really powerful card. Any because we're playing all these older efficient cards, stuff that has prowess plus another advantage on it is very strong.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought of Secret Way. I was just assuming it was an uncommon. Another card that got downshifted that was pretty sweet is Elvish Vanguard.
Okay,
It
yeah.
used to be a rare in, I think, Invasion block, and it got downshifted to common in one of the Master 6. I think it was Iconic Masters.
That's a big jump.
Yeah,
Oh.
so that card's been pretty sweet. Another, I'm trying to think of another one. Yeah. Oh, I think it's Eternal Masters, actually.
Does feel like whenever we have these master sets that there are people that are excited about the spoilers and reprints are like, this $90 card's getting reprinted, and then there's this other subset of folks that are like, oh my gosh, this got downshifted to common. Like
Yeah.
the Pauper community gets really excited whenever master sets or even commander sets come out.
Oh, yeah. Does Ben have any of there's I don't remember the name of the card, but it prevents all damage from a color till end of turn. Do you happen to know
Well, there's
the name of that card? Oh, I think Prismatic Strands? Yeah, that might I think that could have a lot of impact on this game.
especially if you're able to do that in upkeep, can really stop some crazy turns for Luis. It's a decent card against burn.
It's also specifically very effective against Searing Blaze because it prevents the damage to the creature and your face, so it doesn't.
Save
So,
your
so like in modern, the searing effect, like searing blood, if you get rid of your creature, it fizzles it, but searing blaze doesn't have the same thing.
correct.
So this is like a good way to fight against that.
So our players have sideboarded and shuffled for longer than they played their first game. I'm curious if game number 2 is going to go the same way. No, so folks in chat, if you're watching, we have this Cardboard Live plugin hanging out, and so you're able to click on the little magic card graphic that should be up on your screen, and then you can see what all is in the sideboard and the main deck of all these players' decks. So obviously, if you're watching a video on demand later of this, that they're not stuck to the video, but if you're watching this live, it's a useful tool to figure out like what is in folks' sideboards. And we had a mulligan for Ben, but then keeping and likes the card on top. So leading off with a Thraben Inspector.
That card has been really impressive to me. Just the amount of value it generates over the game, as well as giving you an artifact for all the artifact synergies, has been very impressive to me.
Have I told you about my latest $1 million idea?
I don't think you have.
It's a deck box that you have buttons that are programmable for sound effects. So like when you play a clue, you can hit a button and it's like, hmm? Or if you play a lightning bolt, you can hit a button and it like makes a zapping sound.
That sounds awesome.
Speaking of lightning bolt, we get one for Luis. Main phase, turn 1. Just lightning bolt upstairs.
I believe it's actually Chain Lightning.
Oh, there we go.
An interesting interaction between these two decks specifically is that because Ben has red sources in his deck, he can actually pay the second cost of Chain Lightning.
You keep going back and forth there.
Yeah. Ooh, Thermo Alchemist. That card's nuts.
Can only target players though, not creatures.
Yeah. Oh, the Lone Missionary showed up just like you said it was going to.
On time. And with Core Skyfisher being able to return Lone Missionary to your hand and then play it again, that can really put Ben out of range from Luis pretty quickly here.
Ooh, yeah, that is a really nice play. I mean, I'm curious to see if he brought in the Molten Rains for the career lands, actually. It's kind of hard to see players' hands like this, unfortunately. Does Ben have a Faithless Looting in its hand? Is that what that red
There
card
is
is?
one Faithless Looting in Ben's deck. I've seen all these Boros decks, like Boros Monarch or
Mm-hmm.
Godolphin Boros, playing a one of Faithless Looting.
That's an interesting card choice. Modern Scourge, Faithless Looting making its way into Pauper.
All right, skewer the critics there. I really like the interaction of Thermo Alchemist and skewer the critics.
Smash, alright.
Smashing that clue. But Ben is going to probably gain some more life, redeploying that Lone Missionary this turn.
Yeah, if he replaces Lone Missionary, he'll have only taken 1 damage from all of Herbie's spells, not including the Thermo Alchemist.
And there we go. So Thermo Alchemist does give Luis a way to have a lot of recurring damage,
Yeah.
but Ben looping these Lone Missionaries, the fact that also Ben is applying pressure as well,
Mm-hmm.
is, even though they're 1 power creatures, it's going to start adding up here. And we get another smash.
Unfortunately, it doesn't get that much value because he already cycled with it. That was one thing that actually really impressed me with the Boros decks is that it's sort of transitioned from this like red-white aggro deck to like a red-white more mid-rangey strategy, where like almost every card in the deck cycles in some way. So you're just like gaining inherent value over time while just like developing a board and like
It does feel a little bit out of the color pie of red and white. It's something that I generally associate with like green or blue, but this red-white deck is able to have card draw with the Monarch, and then with all your bounce effects, just really outgrind opponents, which is something I definitely heavily associate with usually green decks.
yeah. Palace Sentinels really changed the way this deck looks. It used to be very like even the name is Koldatha Boros, which is there's no Koldatha cards in the deck anymore.
It's kind of like how Modern Affinity is called Affinity, but there's no cards with Affinity
Yeah.
in it.
It's like Metalcraft.
All right, we get a Faithless Looting. Ben maybe wanting to trade some cards in hand for some unknowns.
I'm interested to see what he discards here. He could discard a Battle Screech for the real value. Taking 4. Is Palace Sentinels 1/4, right?
Palace Sentinel is a 2/4.
2/4.
2/4 for 3. When it enters battlefield, you become the Monarch. And Ben using Galvanic Blast to take care of the Thermo Alchemist. And Luis gonna get in at least 2 with the Alchemist before it heads to the graveyard.
So Ben going down to 7 there.
So if it was not for those low missionaries, Ben would be at -1 right
Yep.
now.
Very powerful card.
And we get a Bajuka Bog for Ben.
I haven't seen that out of this deck before, actually. That's an interesting card choice. Do you know if there's anything specifically that he's trying to combat with that?
Oh, there are. It's decent against Blue Black Delver by slowing down Gurmag Angler. Um, it's probably the most common use of Bog.
Oh, also Tortured Existence.
Mhm.
That deck's sweet. Yeah, this Koldatha Boros deck was by far the most represented deck of this tournament.
It's also Reaping the Grave in the sideboard for Ben. Perhaps just, another way to get the colored mana for casting that spell.
Ah, so what? He has 5 sources. He has the bog and then 4 prisms.
Correct. Probably a late game play if you're sideboarding in that card.
Yeah. So it looks
All
like
right, yeah,
players are winning.
Ben could have been dead to a Fire Blast there, but Luis did not draw it, and really surprising how close Luis was to winning that game with all the life that Ben had gained
Yeah, I think Ben played his lone missionary twice.
in the first couple turns.
Yeah. Really showing the power of Thermal Alchemist. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Cardboard Live as an app. Somebody in chat was talking about it. It's every single time I've seen it on a stream, it just makes the viewing experience of Paper Magic so much better, so much easier.
I will say it also is very easy to use on the content creation side, as long as you have folks registering their decks before the event through Cardboard Live. And it's great for us to, instead of having to get paper printouts of deck list, to just be able to pull it up on a screen and see what all is on the sideboard. And I really support the folks that make Cardboard Live, and I appreciate that it is just available to streamers to use without any real cost.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they made it open to everybody.
I was super confused the first time I saw it on SCG, and I just saw like a little magic deck icon, and I think it took me several hours before I realized that you could click on it, and then it would show you a deck list. I was like, what? Are they trying to say how many cards the players have in hand? This isn't working, because they have more than 3 cards in hand.
So I'm interested to see if the players change their sideboard strategies between. I didn't catch if they did, but
Well, we definitely saw the smashes and Molten Rains and Luis's sideboard. I didn't notice them switching anything out, but could have not caught that and could have been off camera here. Yeah, it looks like chat maybe took the analysis that Luis should have bolted the Lone Missionary because that basically was, 8 life is equivalent to at least 2 cards if you have an Alchemist out there, but if you don't have an Alchemist, more than 2 cards.
yeah, I think that's a reasonable play. It also slows down his clock, like not significantly, but I mean most of Ben's deck is like 2 power creatures, so he's not gonna kill you in like one swoop like a lot of decks in Pauper can.
And I have noticed, just looking over Luis's Burn deck, traditionally Burn has played some Needle Drops, but it seems like Skewer the Critics has just replaced that slot. Having another Lava Spike seems better than a 1 damage draw a card.
Well, it's better than Lava Spike, right? You can hit anything. It's just sorcery speed bolt.
Correct, yeah.
Also not particularly relevant in this format, but it does get through Chalice. So
Yeah, no chalices to sideboard and Pauper.
I'm actually really happy about that.
It's surprising how many circle protections you do see in Pauper sideboards, although there are not any in Ben's board. But especially against a burn deck, once you get a circle protection red out, it's almost impossible for the burn deck to really win.
Yeah, it's a pretty rough card to beat.
So if folks are enjoying the stream and are interested in events, you can always check us out on Twitter. We tend to post when we're streaming up on there. We stream almost every Monday at Guardian Games, modern event that happens at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. We're there very regularly with a few exceptions. And we stream on Thursdays. Sometimes we'll stream modern, and we're starting a little like mini tournament series where we're going to be shifting formats between Pauper, Legacy, Modern, etc. But yeah, feel free to follow us if you're interested in paper Magic streaming, or if you're feeling extra excited about it, you can always subscribe, and that'll help us get some more equipment and do more streams.
We also have a YouTube channel for all the videos on demand if you want to go back and watch older tournaments that we have broadcasted.
It's true. We have some edited videos. Usually we post up a couple days after the event. And seems like Ben is contemplating this 6. I see red mana, some Thraven Inspectors.
Core Skyfisher. I don't know what the middle card is.
I think I see a Glinthawk.
What's the one?
Glinthawk, 2 Thravens, and a Skyfisher, I think.
Oh, he's keeping.
And was that a Scry to the bottom there?
Yeah.
Kind of missing on the white mana. Picked up another Great Furnace, it looks like. This could be a quick one.
Yeah. I'm sort of confused as to why Herbie didn't tap his Alchemist in response to his Riftbolt coming off of Suspend. But
yeah, it was a little bit of missequencing there. Hopefully Herbie does not lose with Ben at 1 life.
that would be unfortunate, yeah.
And looks like Luis kept the curses in. I'm curious what Luis boarded out. And is that Keldon Marauders?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what is the text of Keldon Marauders?
So Keldon Marauders, when it comes into play, our leaves play, it deals 1 damage to target player, and it has Vanishing 2, and so it basically you sacrifice it on your upkeep when the last counter is removed. So it's
a time spiral block card.
Could be 5 damage. I used to, before Eidolon of the Great Revel was printed, this used to see a lot of play in Legacy Burn.
Oh yeah, that's not very surprising actually. It's just a good rate.
Yeah, it's hopefully at least 3 damage for 2 plus an additional 2, and it's good against removal.
Yeah. Every time I see a card where I'm like, that is a very weird design, it's literally always time spiral block.
Vanishing, not a very popular mechanic.
Another one that's pretty funny is the equipment for land. That's Fortify.
All right, that was a quick one. Yeah, I think we may have spent more time in between games than we actually spent in games here. But we have still about a half hour left in round, so we're going to go downstairs and see if we can get another matchup on stream. But we will return here momentarily.